Charlie Brooker, you're watching Screenwipe. Slightly different edition this week. We've assembled some of Britain's top TV writers and I've asked them a load of questions about the nuts and bolts of writing. Hope you enjoy it. Well, if you could start off by telling us who you are and what you do.
Hello, I'm Russell T. Davis. I'm a writer.
I'm Paul Abbott, and the most recent thing I've done is Shameless and State of Play.
Well, I'll start off by asking you both to say who you are and what you do.
OK.
Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Jesse Armstrong and I write on Peep Show.
I'm Sam Bain, I write on Peep Show.
What a coincidence.
I'm Graham Linehan and I'm the writer of The IT Crowd and Father Ted and first series of Black Books and the Big Train and some sketches and stuff like that, assorted thingies on different programmes.
And you think that qualifies you as a writer?
I didn't ask to come here.
I'm Tony Jordan, and I was a market trader for like 20 years, and I wrote a spec script about a market trader.
Did you just send this in to the BBC unbidden?
We put it in a brown envelope, and I wrote BBC London on it and posted it. BBC read it, liked it so much they never made it, but gave me a gig on EastEnders.
And you were 34?
Yeah.
When you started doing that?
And what was funny about EastEnders was that they thought that I was... No, they knew that I was a market trader. And when I went into the interview, I was born in Merseyside, but I actually turned into Dick Van Dyke when I went in to see him. So I went in and it was like, cool, blimey, hello, mate, yeah, just got off Danny Apples and Pears. So they convinced themselves that I was a genuine East End barrow boy. I'd never been in the East End in my life.
So you were an imposter?
I was an imposter, and EastEnders is great. They say, you get these weird phone calls, it's nothing like the East End, in my day it was like nothing, it's too miserable, it's all that. And I heard this production secretary saying, well, actually, I think you'll find that the episode was written by a real East End barrow boy. And I thought, oh no. So I had to keep up the pretense, and they found out 5 years later.
How did you get into writing? And I guess it's best to ask how the pair of you got into writing together.
Yeah.
Well, we met on a creative writing course at university and shared a flat and then started writing together after we left.
I ended up working in politics and I was awful at it, a terrible MP's researcher. And you were working in a video shop and we were both looking for things we'd be better at than what we were doing. I'm not saying you weren't good in the video shop.
It was great.
And how then did you graduate to actually writing for the TV?
Our first proper job was doing links and jokes for the Jack Doherty show, right?
Yeah, or The Big
5.
Breakfast.
The Big Breakfast.
There's a lot of comedy writers come up through doing like sketches on Radio 4 and a sort of comedy route. And then end up writing sitcoms later. The first thing we ever wrote was like a narrative. We always wanted to write narrative, and then we ended up trying to make a bit of money by doing those kind of writing in a room, which we were never terribly good at, kind of like little zingers and that kind of slightly tabloid kind of, oh, fucking top you, mate, I've got a better zinger than that, and we'd be in the corner going, oh, you haven't really got a zinger. We watched a couple of really bad sitcoms, as are usually on British TV, traditionally, somewhere in the schedules, and thought, oh, that looks like you must be able to do one better than that. Well, it was ironic, because I think the show that we were watching and thought that's terrible was The Upper Hand, which was an American show that was readapted for the UK. And the first proper job we got was readapting an American show for the UK, and it was much worse than The Upper Hand when it was on telly. So we were wrong in thinking we were going to make it better.
Oh, Doctor, thank you so much for saving me from the Daleks again. I'm such a helpless idiot.
Stop talking, Sarah Jane, and keep jiggling up and down that jumpsuit.
Oh, Doctor, I need you to give me your sonic screwdriver, quick.
Bodygate, bodygate.
All I wanted to be from the age of 5 was a surgeon who'd work in Africa on cataracts, but not for God. And that's all I thought I was going to be. I started writing and never stopped. And everything happened really quickly. It was a weird, weird thing. It found me, and I loved it. I think it was part of my personality. I needed it as a vent valve.
How did you break into it? I mean,
well, I wrote short stories that, you know, you'd sell to, like, Titbits or Weekly News kind of thing, and you get 20 quid, 10 quid, and I did a couple of those. Then I wrote for Jackie magazine, writing the balloons for, you know, photo love stories. I used to write about 3 of those a week, and you got like 70 quid a story. paid for my first flat, and I realised, once I realised that you could pay for a flat with my hobby. It wasn't a hobby, it was a career. Within, I think, a year of that, I was on Coronation Street with a cheque that used to say writer. And I go, wow. And so at some point in the game, I devoted enough energy and time to know that by the time I got that cheque, it was an achievement.
We noticed one night when watching Smith & Jones that there was a long list of writers at the end of the show. So we thought, oh, they probably take submissions. So we wrote to the producer, which I think is a good tip, and just said, we write sketches, would you like to see a few? I don't think producers get a lot of letters like that, so...
They will now.
They will now, yeah, I've ruined it for everyone. We handed in about 6 sketches, a couple of examples of short ones, long ones, dialogue, heavy, quickies, visual gags, just to show that we could do various different things. The thing about Smith & Jones is it was a brilliant show for us to work on because we did learn to do all those things, dialogue-heavy sketches and, visual gags. I remember once early on, they showed us some footage they'd bought, I guess, of tanks. Just loads of tanks reversing, rolling, passing each other. And they said, can you write a sketch about the 2 people driving that tank and use some of that footage? And things like that were great because you no longer were sitting around in a room waiting for inspiration to strike. Now you had a job to do. And sure enough, we wrote it and it became one of the best known sketches in TV history.
Can you...
that was a joke. Have you ever heard of a sketch with tanks in it?
I was thinking...
No, but you know what I mean? But that was really good training and it kind of gets the muscles working.
I went into television production, but specifically to meet writers and to get to know them and just to believe you could do that as a job.
At that time, the day job was...
Working in television, producing children's dramas and storylining on soap operas at Granada and stuff like that, which is a brilliant job, and I loved all that. So I was like really 30 by the end before I actually sort of said, right, I'm leaving the day job and I'm going to sit at home all day and write and see if I can make a living out of it.
Well, what can you remember about the first time you saw something you'd written on screen?
That was extraordinary, and of course it's never as good as you think it's going to be, and that's how you learn to write to 120%, because you'll get about 80. And it was weird. I didn't like it. I didn't like me, and that made me adjust it. And I still don't like stuff when I go, I might like what we've done and how we've made it, but I don't think you're meant to love what you've written, because you will never kind of make anything else better. But I loved learning that, knowing that you're allowed to get things wrong so long as you attend to fixing them.
I remember we wrote some sketches for Smack the Pony, and they were on, and that was a good show, I think. And so they were properly shot and they were nicely performed, and the performance in that changed them and made them better. So that was the first thing I think I remember seeing and thinking, oh, I could tell everyone that I did that and that would be good. The big thing I remember from early on of writing is that thing of assuming that everyone else knows better. There's all these people around, as there are in this room, camera folk and all the different departments, and it's very impressive. And you assume that somehow somebody knows what the hell's going on and it's not you. And then later on, you start thinking that maybe you have got some useful input to make.
What can you remember about the first time you actually saw words you'd written being spoken on screen?
Yeah. Big time. It was nice, and that was on a little children's magazine program called Why Don't You, which didn't even have it had scripts, it had links, links from one bit to another, and I did everything on that show. I used to make the props, and I used to work with the kids and stuff like that. And I knew just when you saw something I'd written being said, that's where my mind just went into, and I just went, that's it. And then when I got my first credit, that writer's credit just meant the world to me. It's just your own brain tells you in the end. It says that's what you love. That's what I'm more proud of that than anything else. So that's the direction I went in.
What did you learn from the first time you were seeing things that you were writing?
You sort of always learn like what not to do. I'm not sitting here going, you're not just going, wow, isn't that brilliant? You go, ouch, and it's like how badly phrased that is, and you rewrite it as you're watching it transmitted almost. Oh, he should have said that. She should have, I should have done it a different way. They should have started in the middle. So that rewriting goes on all the time, even with stuff you have already written that's got made. So that never stops, really. That's still the case now. You just go, ouch, the entire time.
What sort of routine do you have if if any, when you sit down to write?
I generally get in the office about 9, 14 cups of tea, play solitaire, have a little scan around the web, research, that kind of stuff. Start writing about 11, stop again at half 11, have another game of solitaire, another cup of tea. Now 1 o'clock I stop for lunch, start writing again at 2 after I've watched Loose Women in the News, cup of tea, solitaire, might have a game of hearts. 4 o'clock, I'm now thinking, shit, I haven't done anything and I need to make a start. And then I'll write really quickly from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And if I've done what I need to do that day, that's fine. And if I don't, then I'm there. I can be there at midnight.
I might spend a day and never write down a word, and then I'll go to bed feeling a bit depressed and a bit worried, and I'll think, I really have to do something, you know. And then the second day will come along. I'll wake up still worried, and then I sit down at the computer, and I think, because I'm so worried, I'll ease into it, and I start procrastinating again, and then another day passes and I still haven't done anything. Then the third day, or maybe the fourth, or maybe it's into the second week, I don't know, but at some point, I start having ideas. I start panicking so much that I say, I better actually look at something. I look at things I find funny online, and I see, is there anything I've seen recently that struck me as funny that I can use? I have a website, and I post up anything that I find funny. And one of the things I posted up was that guy who was accidentally interviewed on the BBC.
Guy Cuny is the editor of the technology website News Wireless. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Were you surprised by this verdict today?
I'm very surprised to see this verdict to come on me.
And I thought, well, that would be a brilliant thing to happen to Moss, you know. So I had him brought onto the news and interviewed about Iraq by Kirsty Wark.
Gavin Bryars there with developments in North Korea. It's 5 years since the war in Iraq began. The conflict rages on with no hope of a solution in sight. I'm joined by Stephen Premmel, a spokesman for the Ministry of Defence. Mr. Premmel.
Hello.
Iraq is a gigantic and bloody mess, isn't it?
Yes.
So all these things that I'm procrastinating, I'm filling my time with, part of it is fear and not wanting to sit down and write, but the other part of it is feeding the subconscious. Because if you start feeding the subconscious with stuff at that stage, it'll build up and build up and build up. And then finally, when you do have to write, you've hopefully built up a kind of store of stuff in your subconscious that you can draw from.
It used to be 10 hours a day non-stop, you know, kind of lunch breaks, tea breaks and stuff like that. But now I try to, it's quite hard. I get about 3 days in 10 to write, and that's not enough time to finish the jobs I've got to do. So I've now employed people as part of a firewall team to make sure I sit down and do the writing. And of course, I'm paying their wages to make sure I've got the space and the time. And I loathe them. I absolutely loathe them because, you know, it's like telling me what to do. And I know I've got to pay them to do that, and I keep paying them, so they're doing something right. But I have to be forced to sit down now.
Yeah, we sort of do a 10 to 6, or basically that's our day, isn't it? The TV day. We do all the sort of storylining for episodes and together, and we sort of do a lot of detailed scene-by-scene breakdowns of everything we write. And then we go away and we write the dialogue separately and email each other chunks.
Which is the most difficult bit, is it?
The plotting's by far the hardest bit. You know, it feels like that's the bit where you really need someone else in the room, because you get an idea and it's no good and it's difficult to get to the next idea unless you've got someone else to bounce off. So I think
like, at some level it's like engineering or building a table. It's just kind of making sure it all works, and can be quite exhausting.
Starting without a story outline can really hurt you.
It's like eating a dessert and missing the main meal.
But then that's just our experience. So there are writers who can do it, who sit down and sort of enjoy, and I'll find out where I'm going. The bastards, we call them, talented bastards.